Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 56, where tonight we'll be doing our best to analyse the Newcastle game, talking about officiating again, taking your questions and looking ahead to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Leeds United on Saturday. And of course, to guide me through the show, I have our two midfield generals. Well, they've both had promotions now. We've got our club captain, Mark Knock, and our director of football, Chris Tyler. Good evening, gentlemen. Straight into things then. I think the questions are going to take up a fair hit, and I'm sure we're going to get quite passionate in probably not so good ways regarding the officiating. So, Tyler, as you are the lookalike of the Newcastle United manager, I'd love to get your initial take on Newcastle United 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1.
Yeah, I'll try not to be as biased as Eddie was when he was talking about the penalty decision.
Wow.
It was what I expected, to be honest. I was watching that game and thinking, rightly or wrongly, I was just expecting us to lose. And I don't know why I had that feeling. I don't know if it was anything leading up to it or not. But I think it just disappointment. When you get back to 1-1, there was only one team in the ascendancy at that stage, and that was Wolves. There was only one team, if you were a neutral watching that game, that looked like winning the game of football, and that was Wolves. And we've somehow contrived, to lose the game. I think first half, if you're honest, we got battered, similar to Tottenham. It's like Nuno again, isn't it? We can't seem to play two halves of football. I don't understand what it is, but it's like a mental block where we can only play a half at a time. Newcastle, I thought, were excellent first half. The tempo they played with, the passion. That's what you want from your football team, and I thought fair play to them. And the only credit we had, I think we stayed in the game. We went in at half-time 1-0 down and we gave ourselves a chance. And, we scored probably the worst goal of the season, didn't we? But who cares? You've 1-1. The substitutions worked to that point. He made the changes. Obviously, that caused havoc in their box and we got the goal. And I just thought then, I should have been thinking we're going to go on and win the game, but there was just something niggling at me and I don't know why. And the substitutions going through at the back just absolutely killed us, didn't it? It killed us. And we all gave him praise for the Tottenham game. And you rightly called it, Ryan. It worked for that game because we matched up the opposition. Why we did that on Sunday afternoon, I've got no idea. And it was our downfall, wasn't it? The goal came from the gaps in the wing-back area at left wing-back. And once Newcastle scored, ref should have blown up and we should all have gone home, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Nocky, it was... As Tyler said, we come off this show, we're always positive. We always believe in our football team because football leads you down the garden path. You believe getting to the match day, you've got a chance of anything. And I felt in the end, this isn't criticism, it's just an observation. I felt in the end, the result was as much self-inflicted as it was earned by Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, if you take that horrendous decision out, which I know we're going to talk about, we didn't deserve anything out of the game. I thought Chris is right. The first half, we got battered. They were much better than us. But I disagree slightly that they were fantastic. I think we made it very easy for them. We kept giving the ball away, as we have done for the last 3 or 4 games. Turnover of possession has been awful. We didn't seem to know how to attack them. We seemed to have a massive gap between our defence and our midfield, and then there was nothing between the midfield and the attackers. It was a very strange setup. But to come back into it the way we did, I thought, you've got to give them credit for that. We'd made the adjustments, we changed, and we looked a better team. But the 3 at the back was baffling. I understand you do that sometimes. It worked against Spurs because, as you rightly said, Ryan, it was matching them up. Some games you think we need that. We need a little bit of solidity by playing 3 centre backs. We were in the ascendancy at that point. We were the better team, and we looked like we were going to win it. So I didn't see any necessity to do that. I didn't see what he was trying to achieve, and it was just a really strange decision. I don't think we had a kick after that. Even after the goal, we created absolutely nothing. We were 2-1 down. We couldn't get in their half. And I think the injury time, did we touch the ball in the injury time? I don't think we did anything with it. It was just a really, really disappointing performance. And the goals we conceded were really poor. The second one in particular, where we allowed them all the space down the flank to hurt us. So, yes, there was reasons why we lost that game. But I think you have to take those out of it and look at the overall performance. And we got what we deserved. We could have been over by half time, in all honesty.
But there is a pattern developing, though, Tyler, that, as Nocky said, then it could have been over by half time, like it was with the Spurs game. But Wolves are digging in and staying in games. No one seems to be pumping Wolves. They're not particularly pretty performances. There's a good half here and a good half there, but Wolves are staying in football games.
I think you're clutching at straws there, mate, if I'm brutally honest. I genuinely, jokes aside, you boys tell me, when was the last 90 minutes Wolves strung together?
No. Probably Liverpool complete. But even then, though, Tyler, what I would say is you can't continue to press for 90 minutes. We had to take a breather.
Press in the first half. Knocker's probably right. Maybe I'm giving Newcastle too much credit. Tottenham had the easiest first half ever at Molineux. Newcastle had the easiest first half ever last Sunday. This press I'm hearing about, where is it? I'm sorry, I personally don't see it. And I think it was Greg who tweeted just before we came out, why don't Wolves get the belief or the confidence from a result?
That's one of the questions gone.
Sorry, Greg. But you'd think after Tottenham, they'd be buzzing. You think they'd be out the traps at Newcastle. And there was nothing. It was flat as a fart first half, wasn't it? Let's be honest. And we did it under Nuno when we were all criticising it. Why can't we play? I'm not expecting 90 minutes of great football week in, week out. Of course we're not. It's the Premier League. It's difficult. It's the toughest league in the world. But there's such a difference between first half and second half. Even Bournemouth, where we were great first half, we were down the second half. It's a clear pattern. And yeah, without sort of knocking it out, I think you're probably clutching at straws a bit, because I'm still expecting more from this team. Whether that's me expecting too much, I don't know. No, I'm expecting more than what we're getting, I think.
My point is, the game could have been over against Spurs. The game could have been 2-0 down. But as a result of Wolves clinging on to 1-0 or whatever, 1-0, it allowed one chance, one goal, Hwang's in. And then if we stick as we are, Wolves are chasing for the game. So what I'm trying to say is no one's absolutely taking Wolves to the cleaners. They're staying in games. Yes, it sounds a bit clutchy, but no one's absolutely pumping them. And you're thinking, we're going to get Dick 5 or 6 here. That's not happening. But yeah,
we talked about this last season. That style of football is not sustainable.
No, it's not.
And we are where we are for a reason, because of it ultimately. And you can't. And again, am I expecting too much by thinking the set of players we've got shouldn't be clinging on, or they shouldn't be hanging on to games of football? They should be dominating games of football, in my opinion. I might be wrong, but
I think you touched on it yourself, Ryan, when you said one shot, one goal, because that's all we were creating.
Yeah,
you can't be reliant on your only real shot hitting the net. I mean, I know Pedence had a really good effort that hit the post, but if you count up the amount of chances we had, I mean, you are a student of XG. I tried to think what our XG was in that first half, because we barely got over the halfway.
I think we were in our overdraft, mate, to be honest.
Exactly. So yes, we're not getting pumped by teams, but that's because we're sitting with a rear guard action. And how many times we just get the ball and just lump it away, and then try and reset and let them come back at us? If we do get pumped and we lose a game by 5-3, 5-2, at least you can see what we're trying to achieve in terms of going forward. At the minute, we're just kind of sitting back and waiting for teams to beat us. And the Spurs result was absolutely magnificent. I'm not taking anything away from that, but we all know Spurs would have added. If Spurs go 1 or 2 up in that game, it's completely dead and buried. And the chances they should have done. So you won't always get away with it. And games like Newcastle prove that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just going to the starting lineup itself. I mean, in the first half, when Wolves didn't really do a lot, the one for me, although there wasn't a lot of quality, the one bit of hope for me was Adama, because I didn't think he was doing that bad, to be honest. And I was surprised to see him come off at half time. But what was refreshing, I actually thought Neto played quite well when he came on. That looked a bit like Neto of 2 years ago, who we hadn't seen for ages. But it was a real surprise to see Adama come off in that game. So, but yeah, again, any scout watching Wolves ahead, good luck predicting what they're going to do, because fans usually get sort of a pattern. A centre forward comes off a pattern of play. I have no idea. Someone, I think Daz said it a while ago. What is, or one of you guys said, what is Lopetegui ball? I don't know yet. I thought I did. I thought the first half against Villa. I thought the first half against away at Liverpool. I thought the first half home league against Liverpool. I thought that was it, but I've not really seen it since. And are we at a stage now when a regular 11 is a thing of the past? And I don't know. Maybe you guys can give me some more thoughts on that, because we moaned when it was the same 11 every week under Nuno. We didn't moan when it was going well, but now there seems to be a lack of consistency of who's playing there. Whether that's down to Pedent's been injured, Kuna been injured, and struggling for fitness, and Ain't Nori, and what happened to Bueno, I don't know, but I almost feel like now I'd like to see a consistent 11 start a game just to try and build of a pattern, a bit more of an idea and an identity. I mean, as long as you stay up, I don't really care, but going forward, it's just nice to see a bit of consistency.
But it's not just one change, is it? It's like 2 or 3, or maybe even 3 or 4 every week. And I think we said, didn't we, when he first came in, credit where it's due when he get the substitutions right, but when he gets them wrong, he's got to be open for criticism. And fair play to him. He said in his interview that wasn't the right thing to do, going 3 at the back. And that's refreshing to hear as a football fan, isn't it? Because you don't often get that. He sort of put his hands up and admitted he got that wrong. But I'll text you boys a bit tongue-in-cheek, and obviously Knocker's shared his thoughts on Kuna, but if you're losing in a game, don't you bring on your £45 million centre-forward?
Yeah.
If he's fit. There's been photos of him in like an ankle boot, so maybe he wasn't fit enough to come on, but he's on the bench. So does he not come on? Do you not bring Neto on and keep Adama on? Because like you said, Adama was having more of an impact in the game than Podence was. I mean, we've all said, and I think every Wolves fan will probably agree, Moutinho's role now is to finish the game, not start it. He started it and we were weak again. It's the same things cropping up week after week again, isn't it? And that's making me not doubt him at all. So I think he's an elite football manager, and I think he'll get it right. I think he will, but there's a few strange decisions at the moment. That's
a really interesting thing you raised there about Moutinho. And I mean, I don't want to disrespect him because with Ruben Neves, he's the best I've ever seen playing for Wolves. But Nocky, for me, I don't think the manager trusts someone else in the number 10 to do the defensive responsibilities, because Moutinho will. His legs will give him 45 minutes, 50, 60 minutes at a push to allow him to do the press and the tracking. Does he not trust Kuna? Does he not trust Pedence? Does he not trust someone else that could play that 10 position? Does he not trust Sarabia to do that, to allow Wolves to go 4-2-3-1? I think he's playing Moutinho there because he trusts him, not because he doesn't rate the other players.
I mean, Sarabia and Kuna are his players. So if you know you've got a weakness in that area and the only option you've got is a phenomenal footballer in João Moutinho, but a player who's not the player he was for obvious reasons, why did you sign those players in those positions if they don't fit what you want to do? So we all know Moutinho is best when he's coming off the bench. He's proved it against Liverpool when he set up the 3rd goal. He's got enough in the tank for me for half an hour of real impactful play where he can make a real difference.
With and without the ball.
With and without the ball, yeah, and the leadership and everything he brings. I think he's been phenomenal for us. He's been one of our best ever signings, in my opinion. But he's got half hour in. That's the reality of it now. So he would have known that before he signed Kuna and Sarabia. And I'd argue we haven't really seen enough of those in that position to know whether they can do a job and whether they can be defensively sound. And unless we try it, we're not going to know. But yes, his defensive duties are important, but in that position, we need someone to support the attack. We don't score enough goals as it is, so you need someone to make those advanced movements.
He's never going to get past next to the forward or run past Raul, is he? He's never going to happen.
When you've got Lemina in the team, he didn't have his best game against Newcastle, as we know, but when you've got Lemina in the team, maybe you don't need to worry quite so much about your defensive acumen. Let's focus on going forward, because defensively, we've been okay. Going forward, we're horrendous. So I want someone in there, I'm not Sarabia's biggest fan, I'll be completely honest, but let's see him in the number 10. Let's see if he can impact a game from there, because he's clearly a very intelligent footballer. Cunha, let's play him there, because he's not a number 9. We all know that. So let's try these players in this position. Let's have a little bit more forward momentum, because you've got Lemina, you've got Neves, both are quite happy to drop deep. So for me, you're wasting Moutinho in that position, because he's not going to give you what you need him to give you.
Not only that, you're punishing Jimenez, because as we've seen, with his recent relationship with Kuna, away at Fulham, I think the last home game as well. No, the home before. Spurs. Kuna and Jimenez look like they've got something. They read each other. Kuna's running off the ball, the link up. There's something there, and we saw that at Fulham, particularly in the first half. And it was clear when Kuna came off injured, Wolves they were blunt then. So there's something there. Now, whether that's in a 4-3-3 or the bespoke 4-4-2. I don't know, but that gap that links between the midfield and the forward line needs to be fixed soon. Now, if it's a 4-3-3, I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? Because the manager was, and I think it was brave, leaving out Matheus Nunes. I think that was a big shout. I wasn't expecting that, but is that been a long time coming?
I'm sorry, I'm backtracking to your number 10 point. I mean, again, I'm probably being a bit blunt, but you don't play number 10 for defensive duties.
No.
You play number 10 because he's your playmaker and he's your ball carrier, and he's probably should be, or arguably, your best player. You don't want to go compare about obviously greats because Wolves are nowhere near it, but your Maradonas, your Messis, your number 10s, they're enigmas, they're flair players. If you want your number 10 to do defensive work,
you're playing the wrong formation.
You're setting up wrong, aren't you? Exactly. And knockers bang on. If Lamina and Neves, between the two of them, can't do the dirty work and allow a free spirit, whether it's a Podence or a Sarabia or a Cunha, just to play a little bit in front of them, 10 yards, 5 yards in front of them, again, the setup's not right, is it?
Is it time then to trust those two, as you say? Is it a risk because of the games we've got coming up forward, or do we take the games these next two opponents and go with a holding two?
You'd like to think so, but I think the issue we've got is he doesn't know his best team. He still doesn't know the best 11. He doesn't know to get the best out of the attacking options. So for me, I think you have to go for it. I mean, if we can almost sew things up over the next few games. I think we've got a real opportunity to get some genuine daylight. But if we start the game like we did against Newcastle, like we did against Spurs, Leeds will come at you. That's the only way they know how to play.
That's good for us,
I think. They'll push us. They'll come at us. So we're going to be under a lot of pressure. If we sit, we're just going to wait for that ball to hit the back of the net. Whereas I'd rather take the game to them and expose them in the wide areas, expose them defensively. But you're not going to do that with the Martinho. You need someone in there who's got a little bit of dynamism. Like Chris says, you need your best player in there. If he's not your best player, he needs to be the best player with the ball at his feet, so a Podence or a Sarabia, just to unlock that defence, because Leeds are horrendous. There's no reason we can't go and kill this game off, within 60, 70 minutes. But if we sit back and defend, they'll pick us off. There's no doubt about it, because they can score goals. So, to answer your question, mate, I'd rather see us go for it than try not to lose.
You're currently watching and listening to episode 56 of the Wolves Report with Chris Tyler, Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester, currently analysing the Newcastle game. Now, we've done really well to go 17 minutes in and not mention this so far. And we're going to talk about this and then talk about officiating afterwards. But a game-changing moment in the game that I feel may split the panel. Alan Shearer, Gary Neville, all the referees I've seen. Everyone is
pros or lefties on the.
Oh dear! And then that is not the opinion of the Wolves Report. That is the opinion of Chris Tyler.
So I don't think Lineker played left wing, mate. I think he's
here we go. Absolutely blowing the show. Good night, everybody. So at that moment, I mean, I don't understand in a million years. Raul's gone in. Has Raul played for the penalty? Yes, he has. Did Jamie Vardy and players like him, like now Bruno Fernandes, Jack Grealish, who are experts at winning free kicks and penalties, do it week in, week out? It's fantastic play. Jimenez does it. Yes, he's buying it, but yes, it's a foul. I don't understand what the official's doing. Now, although the guidelines are to try and stick with the on-field decision, if the official thinks the keeper's kicking it, he doesn't expect Jimenez to pinch the ball off him. How can he see and go with his decision when he's 40 metres away, Knocker? It's impossible. And then for him not to be sent to the monitor, I mean, try and shed some light on it, Knocky, because I am lost for words on that situation.
I'm not 100% sure he did play for it, if I'm honest. I think the touch takes the ball inside and he knows he's going to get hit. So I'm not sure he did play for it. I think he got smashed and it should have been a penalty. But where the referee's given himself a massive problem is that he's made a decision. So he stood on the halfway line. There is not a chance in hell he knows that whether that is or isn't a foul. But the second he commits and says, you can see him quite clearly wave it off, saying no penalty from the halfway line. He's now forced VAR to overrule him and deem it a clear and obvious error. That's where the issue is for me. If he'd have done absolutely nothing and been honest and said to VAR, I don't know, I'm too far away, VAR can then make a balanced decision or send him to the monitor. But because he's committed to that decision, they've now got to overrule him. For me, that's where the big issue came in. He should have just left well alone and let them either make the decision or send him to the monitor. But, I mean, the more I see, the more I don't understand.
You've seen that foul given 100 times. You've seen that a player being brought down like that, and I don't think I've ever seen it not be a penalty before.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the first.
We're all biased towards our team, aren't we? But if that's the other end, I absolutely think it's a penalty for Newcastle.
And a red card.
Because he just clearly is. I mean, Pope's touch is horrendous. Jimenez is sharp. He nips in. Pope's panic because he was sent off the game before. He's jumped in on Jimenez, his connection. It just has to be a foul. There's no other decision it can be. And I've seen some of the tweets people put out. I don't think there is any corruption. I just think there is an inept level of officiating with our referees and VAR. I just think it's just a complete and total shambles, and no one wants to make a decision. No one wants to overrule a decision. You can see the assistant referee just stares at the referee, doesn't wave his flag. He's in the best position to
don't want to make a decision because VAR protects them. And if they're sticking with we stick with the on-field decision, you're never going to get it because no one's brave enough to make a decision. Tyler, let's bring you into this.
Knocker's nailed it, and I think that's been the big difference. Is Howard Webb has come in. Is he said we're sticking with the on-field decision. So, probably 6, 9, 12 months ago, I think that would have been reviewed to the screen. He's come in as the head of it, and he's made a clear directive that unless it's clear and obvious, it's not going to get looked at. And if I'm being honest, I'm in the minority. I don't think it is a clear and obvious error if he hasn't given it because of the distance he is away. I'm with you two boys. There's no way he can give a decision from his position. He's guessing. He's purely guessing. And he's going with the home team and he's going with the safe option of not giving a penalty and not sending the keeper off. I blame the linesman more than anything. He's 10 yards away. So if he can't see it from where he is and giving it the old flag across the chest, there's nothing there. But it's the mates club, isn't it? We've talked about it before. They're just protecting the mates. And the VAR, I can't remember a game since Howard Webb's come in, I might be wrong, where I've seen an official go to the screen. We don't see it. We don't see it in this country. In the World Cup in Europe, we see the referee always go to the screen and look at their own decision. All it needs is the guy in the bar to say, yeah, you might be right, but you might just want to take another look at that. And then he goes and he either confirms his own decision and he backs himself, or says, you know what, I've got that wrong, it's a penalty. It's not someone judging the referee, it's the referee saying to himself, yeah, I need to have a look at that. And there's no way, whether you think it's a penalty or not, there's no way he can give the decision from his on-field position.
So he has to go and look at it. There's this is coming from Mark Perry. If it wasn't a penalty or foul on Sunday, why wasn't Raul booked for diving? Unbelievable decision. Keep up the good work, guys. Love the show. Appreciate your contribution, Mark, and your kind words. It's true though, isn't it? Because Raul has obviously been semi-cleaned out. I do think he knew what he was doing. But that's part of the modern game, whether you like it or not. Jack Grealish is an absolute master at winning free kicks. There's nobody that gets his body between the ball and the man better than him, doing it again and again. Raul does it and nothing happens.
Well, put it this way, Ryan. If Pope got there first and then Jimenez did the same contact
the other way
and went on to score the goal, we all know what's given, don't we? It's purely because he was in the area. And the ref bottled it ultimately. He's bottled a big decision at an away ground with a big crowd early in the game. He's bottled it.
Jimenez was sent off against Leeds for that last season.
Exactly the
same kind of contact.
That's a really good point. Really good point.
They're almost using VAR like a crutch now. And it's almost as if I'm going to say no.
Safety net, isn't it?
They can have a look and make a decision. There's absolutely no point in having a linesman on the pitch now. Absolutely. They do nothing at all other than stick the flag up. I mean, you said about putting the flag across your chest. That must be the dream of every linesman to be able to do that.
Oh, mate, just giving it that one.
That'd be an unbelievable moment. And he just looks at the referee. I don't know what to do here. The referee's looking at him. I don't know what to do. Well, if the linesman doesn't give it, I'll say no and we'll let VAR sort it out. So there's no responsibility and there's no accountability at the moment.
Here's a question for you then, guys. Sorry, we've not directly answered your question, Mark, but I do agree. It's one or the other. Because
if it's not a foul, it should be booked for diving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're unanimous on that, Mark, and appreciated. What I don't understand, though, is every pundit. I don't know anybody that said that's not a penalty. Now, I did a tweet, in terms of the Wolves stinkers, and I had half of Newcastle on my timeline afterwards, defending them vigorously, even though I hadn't said anything bad about Newcastle. I haven't seen a pundit, a commentator, an ex-footballer. I haven't seen anybody that says that's not a penalty. No way.
So where's it going wrong then?
Well, this is a great question. How how can that be justified? No, I mean, since Lopetegui's come in, I mean, I'm going to go through a thread of that thread of tweets in a bit and talk about decisions when we talk about the officiating. But since he's come in, what must he think about the level, the standard of officiating in this country? We go back to when we were all at Forest. I mean,
I think the Forest one is more of a penalty. His boot has come off.
He's actually trod on him and put him into the ground, and the referee stood there like that, nothing.
Neves is taking the boot to him, saying,
"What's this?"
I think we're all lost for words. I just don't think people know anymore, do they? People don't, and it's not just Wolves. It has impacted us a lot. But you see, the Casemiro red on Sunday, and there was exactly the same tackle last night. One of them is a red card, and one of them isn't. And we've talked about this a million. It's just all we want is consistency.
We want consistency. We don't mind the game changing, but you've got to treat everybody the same. Let's just take it back to the game before we move on to officiating again, because I knew that was going to sort of stoke with the fire here. Wolves equalised. Great substitution. Got to say, Neto did well when he came on. I wasn't expecting it. I thought he actually looked quite lively. He looked like he had a bit of his old pace back. He looked like he had a bit of zip, and I thought, actually, well done. Huang comes on. I think it's his second touch he scored. Comms breakdown between the centre-back and Pope. Scores fantastic. And then Wolves find themselves in the position when they're on top of the game. And if anything, then, as Nocky said earlier on, keep this up. They've taken their two biggest danger players off. They've tucked in. Wolves are in the ascendancy here, and then we change it. I'm absolutely staggered by that. But I know we talked about at the start, and I'm not going to be overcritical, but surely, and without repeating myself, because I am, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Wolves were playing well at that point. We were in the game. We were squeezing. It looked good. Newcastle had tucked off. They'd lost the momentum. You know what it's like in a game. We've seen it a million times. You score the first goal, then you tuck off. It's hard to get your momentum back, isn't it? But if your opponents change the setup and invite you back on, it felt like such a massive own goal. I mean, I'd have been buzzing for that point, but I genuinely believe the way the game was going, it would have been Wolves pressing to win that game. The flow of water was flowing downstream for Wolverhampton Wanderers that game, and the change just basically said, Newcastle, come on, then come and win it. Tough one to take. Is it that bad?
I'll let Nocky speak for a bit.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm a huge Lopetegui fan, and Chris said earlier he's an elite level manager. He knows what he's doing, but no one's above criticism or question, and he got it wrong. I mean, I found it really refreshing that he came out and said that he got it wrong. I've got no issue with that. We all make mistakes. It'd be nice if the officials did that once every so often, but the fact that he came out and said, I've got that wrong, no issue for me for making a mistake. But I think decisions like that, you need a little bit of science behind it. I just didn't see why we'd done that. You could see Newcastle were looking at us down the flanks. You could see they were looking to stretch play. So why narrow your back line and allow that to happen? It was just such a strange decision in a game where we're in the ascendancy. If we're getting peppered and we're getting battered and they're running through the middle, yeah, you go through centre-backs and you try and solidify your back line a little bit. But when most of the attacks are coming from the wide positions and you're in the ascendancy yourself, I just... massive, but like you say, a massive own goal, and I just think that it's maybe sometimes he does this from habit. He seems to like playing three at the back for the last 15-20 minutes of the games, regardless of the score.
If you're 2-0 up against a superior team, I get it. If you're 1-1 in a game where for the last 15 minutes you've been on top and the better side, you're only weakening what you're doing to hurt the opposition. You're blunting your own weapons, and I don't understand it. But it more than balances itself out because he's been brilliant with some of the substitutions. So I'm not over complaining. I'm just frustrated. But just to top that bit off and sort of draw an end to that bit, it is massively refreshing, as you both said, for the manager to go, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Now, those few words mean a lot to the fans because we just want transparency. We've been seeing managers in the past when they are talking about a game that I've been at, and I'm like, I don't remember any of that, what you've just said. Now we've got an elite manager who's honest. He's been transparent. I got it wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Now, you don't have to apologise because you've done some brilliant times and I'm grateful that you're here. But you're saying what we've all seen, and I really appreciate that. So it is refreshing from the manager, incredibly frustrating, and it's a long old journey home from there, isn't it, as well? But yeah, moving on from that then. You are currently listening to episode 56 of the Wolves Report with Mark, not Chris, Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. We touched on it then. I'm going to do it again now. Officiating for me, guys, this season, I would say in the Premier League, this is I thought last season was bad. And I've not just got my Wolves tinted glasses on. For everybody, the consistency, the VAR, the on-field decisions, it is as bad as I think I've ever seen. I'm just going to run through this tweet I did about the official stinkers of thread. So we had that game back on the 12th of November when Goncalo Guedes is clean through. He's taken out by Saliba. Nothing. I don't think it was even reviewed. Blatant penalty. Then there's obviously what happened at Liverpool, whether that was tech issues or not. Wolves absolutely stung. Forest, when he's trod on Mateus Nunes, his boots come off. Then we go to the Saints one when Mario Lemina has jogged over and been sent off for being the third man on a made-up rule that doesn't seem to exist anywhere in the Premier League, despite the players surrounding the officials ever since. Bizarre. And then obviously we got the Newcastle one when Jimenez is taken down by Pope when it's 0-0. Now, that's not over a season. That's since November. You talk about one decision that you're mad about. That's 5 decisions for me that potentially see Wolves still in the cup and Wolves potentially have more points. Can someone give me a rational explanation or an honest opinion without sending the podcast to court? Tyler?
You know my thoughts on VAR from day one. You know what? It's not good. And are the decisions worse or are the decisions highlighted because we've now got VAR there that are meant to eradicate these decisions? I'd argue out of those 5 you mentioned, at least 4 are blatant mistakes, as in clear and obvious. If that's what they're going down, how have they not? I just don't. Like I said, I can't give you a reason why it's not been turned around. When VAR wasn't here, we didn't really care if it was a bad decision. You'd be a bit annoyed, wouldn't you? You talk about it walking back to the car.
You'd be like, how did he miss that? Yeah.
But you wouldn't care because there's a guy in the middle who's under pressure trying to get things right. And like I said, everybody makes mistakes and referees make mistakes. I can live with that. What I can't live with is the referee makes the mistake and then there's a guy who's looking at 12 or 15 replays making the same mistake. I think ultimately, for me, it's killed football. There's a lot of people falling out of love with football. The one that sprang to mind at the weekend was the Richarlison goal for Tottenham.
How was that offside?
I mean, if we're giving them as offsides, we might as well all pack in now. There's got to be a clear and obvious daylight. There's got to be something there. 3 of us could have looked at that, and 1 of you could have said offside, and 2 of us could have said onside. It's not factual information, and I think I've said it 100 times. I think that's the problem with football. It's not. It's still subjective. It's still opinions. If a referee gets it wrong, like he did on Sunday, I can deal with it. But because there's a guy looking at it in a replay,
whose job it is.
And that's the difference for me.
And the thing is, Nocky, and I'm going to bring this in, and I know people will say it's different sports, and there's a lot football. I mean, I'm a Six Nations casual fan, but I'm a football fan. Look at the way they manage their replays and stuff like that. It's clear, it's on the screen, it's black and white, it's yes or no. They make a decision. Everyone might not agree with it. It's there, it's explained, everyone can see it. There's the slow motion of it. There's the decision on it. Off we go. Football is in kindergarten compared to rugby being studying for their PhD in terms of how they use technology. It is embarrassing for football. Do we stick it out, Nocky? Can they fix it and get to that level? Or because whether we like it or not, VAR is here to stay. But as I think Tyler mentioned earlier on, in the World Cup, in Europe, they use it so much better. I feel like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but you're watching the game and you're like, oh, the VAR room, I've seen the same game as what I've seen. The decision you think happens and we go on from there. Here, you're getting decisions like the 5 I mentioned from Wolves, Nocky, and it's like, so yeah, just going forward back to it. Do we learn from rugby? I'm honestly, I'm stunned.
He's lost the words. I've not seen Ryan lost the words for a long time.
How do we make football more like rugby in terms of using technology?
You would hope there'll be a natural evolution with it, because I'm sure rugby wasn't spot on when it first came in. And I didn't want VAR.
3 or 4 years in, mate, now.
I know, but I mean, I didn't want VAR from day one. I thought it would do this. It's worse than I actually thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I was scared when it came in because I thought it was going to be the one thing that damaged the game, and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. And it's so difficult because there's quick wins for it. If they'd have reviewed those decisions we mentioned and got the right decision, you'd look and think, well, okay, it's frustrating, it's annoying, but it's doing its job. That isn't happening. They're still viewing it and they're still getting it wrong. And how many times in the last few weeks have they had to fire out an apology because VAR got it wrong? How can it be wrong? You've got the replays, you've got the screens, you've got all the information, and you're still getting it wrong. It just is unfathomable that you can get those decisions wrong when you've got all of that technology around it. I'm with you. You come out of grounds and you're frustrated the referee's got it wrong, but you can appreciate that he's only human.
Yeah, I can forgive the referee. The referee.
You can, because we all make errors, as we've said earlier. But for me, football's a working class game. You need to be able to replicate football in a park with jumpers, as far as I'm concerned. When you start taking it to this level, you're taking away that fluidity and the spontaneous moments. Because we had it at Southampton when João Gomez scored the goal. Tyler turned to me and said, I think he's reviewing this for handball. That's it.
I was halfway down the stairs.
Yeah, well, you're in panic mode then, aren't you? Because you think he's going to disallow this. And every time the ball hits the net, you're looking for how can he disallow this? Was he offside? Was there a touch on his hand? You're sat in the ground, you hear nothing. There's no communication. There's nothing on the screen. There's nothing coming in at all. It's designed purely for the TV audience. And it just doesn't work. I mean, I'd stick it in the bin now. I don't think it adds any value whatsoever to football. There won't. It'll be here forever now. But I don't see any value that it earns. So your only hope is that it does evolve, it does get better. I don't know whether it will, because there's a huge arrogance around football that we do it better than anybody else. So we don't want to learn from rugby. We don't want to learn from these are the sports that use it. Well, football will do it our way, and it just isn't working.
But the decision on Sunday, it's now Thursday night. Why have we not heard from anybody?
There's no accountability.
Why is Howard there, but one of his mates not come out and said, this is why we didn't see it was a penalty?
But Howard Webb's made it worse, because he's now saying, we'll go with the... and you said it earlier, Chris, they're not going over to the monitor anymore, because Howard Webb's tried to slow that down. He's tried to keep the game going. Well, if you're not going to go to the monitor, you need VAR to make a decision, but VAR don't want to overrule their mates who are refereeing the game. So in essence, you've made a bad system even worse, because you're not using it properly. You're not even using it to within 80% of its capacity now, because you're not going to review the monitor anymore. So for me, Howard Webb's got massive accountability on this, and he's got a lot to answer.
He should be
one of the main reasons.
He should be coming out. Like Ryan mentioned the rugby, and that's a perfect example. Like the cricket is, I love cricket. I watch a hell of a lot of cricket. Every decision that's reviewed, you can hear the fourth umpire talking through step by step why he's making that decision. Can I have that angle? Can I have that angle? Yes, I think it's hit the bat, or it's hit the bat, it's out. Rugby, you can hear them talking to each other, the dialogue as to why they've got to that decision. With football, you can't hear that dialogue. How have they got to that decision on Sunday? Has the referee basically said, yeah, I'm not sure, lad, so you know what, don't bother looking at it? Who knows?
It's an absolute stink. I mean, this is taking things a bit deeper, and we've all played football. We've all been a bit potty-mouthed. I think a lot of they won't put it on the screens because obviously I think now there's a lot more disrespect for referees, players swearing at them constantly. I mean, people use bad language at football, whatever. I don't think it should be directed at officials in a game. But again, that's something that we can learn from rugby, because there's a respect, and there's that. I think they had it years ago when there was that 10-yard rule. If you question the decision, I'll take it 10 yards. They should bring that back. The amount now you see teams surrounding Bruno Fernandes, chirping the whole game. Our player jogs over and gets a second yellow card for it. It is the respect is out the window. I think personally it starts with the respect. Don't swear at me. Don't question my decisions. Yeah. If you do, it's a yellow card, and then you go back. Let's get some respect back, and then we can start refereeing the game properly. I think, honestly, I sometimes think the officials are frightened. I think they're scared to make a decision.
But is that not an opportunity then? Is that not an opportunity to mic him up and then hear Bruno Fernandes firing out a load of F-bombs at him and hearing some of these players? Because you can see, lip reading it, you can quite clearly see it. If he can hear that, drop him a red card, and then you've got all the justification you need because you've been picked up on your mic. So they need to be brought in line. Footballers aren't like rugby players; they haven't got that level of respect for referees. Alex Ferguson,
we need that back, Knocky. We need to start at the base.
That's the point. You won't get it. Alex Ferguson used to openly tell his team, one at a time, go after the referee. Every decision, go and complain to the referee, take it in turns, because you might get the next decision. That's the mentality of football. You're not going to take that away because they know they can influence referees. And they do influence referees. You know they do. We've been, when we first got to the Premier League, you play a team like Arsenal, the referees on first-name basis with every Arsenal player, they talk to them differently, they act differently. How many red cards did we have against Arsenal where there was absolutely nothing in it, but they all surround the referee and bang, you're sent off? Footballers have the ability to influence referees in a way that rugby players don't because it's been clamped down on over the years. You can't, you're not going to adjust that now. All you can do is mic up your referee, retrospectively.
Expose them.
Right, you said this, you said that, to the game, bam.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's just, if we start from the beginning, I might be clutching at straws, but that respect is...
without going too deep, like I said, there's a huge issue across grassroots football, isn't there? Because of
it's terrible. People don't want to referee games.
Yeah. My lad plays and I help with the coaches. It's hard to get refereeing. They're under 10s because of what, and you do. Knock is right. Look at Arteta. Look at his antics on the touchline.
Terrible.
Guardiola. They Klopp constantly effing and blinding at the fourth official. How we wouldn't accept that in our workplace.
No,
if
absolutely not.
To you and just swore at you all day, you'd be like, "What?" But they take it because they're soft and because they're weak. Ultimately, they're not strong enough character.
Is that because the clubs hold the power in the Premier League now, and they're afraid to do anything against them?
Well, we talked about the Big Six and the love in there for years, haven't we? That's not a new thing. But you're even seeing bad decisions go against those guys now. I mean, like I said, the Tottenham one was bizarre the weekend. It's like they were finding any reason to not give that goal, and that was a bit weird. So there's loads of people on Twitter that say, is it corruption? I'm a bit with Knock. I think it's just pure inept refereeing. I just don't think they get the majority of the decisions right. They've got the backup of a screen, and they're still not getting it right. And that's the bit that I think the football fan struggles to deal with.
Yeah, I think the main word here is transparency. If you make a decision I don't agree with, I've got to suck it up. But tell me why you're making the decision. Explain. Let the fan base know. Let the managers know. Because the Wolves players this season have been like, you've seen like Neves has been booked, I reckon, 2 or 3 times for dissent this season, and he's just like, I don't understand how you possibly giving that decision. So,
well, look at Kane against us. He was basically trying to referee that game, wasn't he? He was refereeing that. I'm the England captain. Every decision, literally every single decision, he would walk over to the ref, and he'd have a. If I'm the referee, I'm saying, do that again, mate. You get a yellow card. You do it again, you get a red card. But like I said, they're scared of them. They're terrified of them.
And you know what will happen is then, like it happened with Wolves, like Nuno complained about Lee Mason. And for me, I think that's where it's gone bad for Wolves ever since then. I mean, it's no coincidence. Since then, it's been nothing short of appalling. The consistency. I don't want favours. I don't want to be treated differently. I want to be treated the same as everyone else. I want equality and I want transparency. It's not a lot to ask from the most lucrative league in world football, is it, really, for the officiating? It's not a lot.
It's all behaviours, isn't it? It's all behaviours that have been learned over a period of time that we don't know how to unlearn now. I mean, like Chris says, no other workplace should you have to stand there and have someone screaming at you because of something that somebody else has done on the pitch. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous that they have to stand there and take that. But we've created these behaviours, and you're right, grassroots football is a fantastic example because you see punch-ups, you see parents stood on the side in a 8, 10, 11-year-old's game screaming at the referee because they've not made the decision they want them to give. And it's behaviours that go right from grassroots, right the way through to the Premier League. And how you undo that, I don't know, unless you give the referee a layer of support where someone else is taking that away from them and retrospectively punishing players for those. I don't see how you stop it because it's not going to ever be as respectful as rugby. It has to be you've almost got to rule it with an element of fear now that if you say that, you will be banned for 2 games. It's the only way you're going to get inside players' heads because there is no respect for officials. I mean, we'll talk about VAR. We won't personally attack a referee. We'll just give an honest opinion on the referee's performance, but when you see some of these players, and these are players that kids look up to and want to emulate, and they want to be like, and they want to play like them on the park and in the school playground. You see your hero screaming at a referee. You don't have to be a lip reader to figure out what they're saying. You're going to emulate those behaviours, and unless we can nip that in the bud, it's never ever going to change, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a massive problem, and I know I've promised this a few times. I had a brief exchange with Keith Hackett, and he's still keen to come on the show. Want to get Mark Halsey on with him as well to do a referee special. Obviously, those guys are really busy and they're going to give it their time to come on the podcast. So Keith does want to come on. Has got to confirm Mark as well. And I think that'll be a cracking guest special. And I'm sure we'll get lots of questions on that as well. But yeah, I'll be sure to sponsor Tyler to get his refereeing badges and to see them berate a 7-foot giant ref in the game.
I'll just start sending people off. I'm not bothered.
Tyler, there's 2 men left.
But that's only stupid. It's so simple. If you swear at me, you get a yellow card. If you do it again, you get a yellow card and you're off. What's difficult from that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not hard. They'd soon stop doing it. If they were actually being sent off, they'd soon stop doing it.
But this is why they need to be stronger. There needs to be a directive put out from the start of next season. Any foul, abusive, derogatory, or any accusations of cheating, it's a yellow card. And the next time you do it, you'll be off. It doesn't matter who you are, you don't get a warning. And while we're on that decision as well, goalkeepers that waste time on goal kicks.
Don't get me started. We need a full episode on that.
Okay, let me just give you this. These are my 2 ideas. Goalkeepers that waste their time on goal kicks, 10 seconds, no warning, corner. No check, corner. They'll soon stop doing it then. Throwing, wasting the time, taking 5 or 10 yards, opposition throw. Make the rules tougher. Put a deterrent in place. Players like creeping up, taking the time, waste time, it's a corner, waste time, opponent throwing. Teams will soon start doing it. And I'm going to tease you as well. If a player goes down injured in injury time, we'll have, like in rugby, we'll have the physio come on and treat them. The game plays on. We'll see how injured you are then, mate. But anyway, that's going to be for the officiating special. Look at Nocky there. Loves that one. I love that one. Yeah. Bleeding away, play on.
I fancy a reducer on the physio while he's trying to treat.
Shall we do a few questions now? Tyler, you can just clean up that one from early on as you ruined the first question. Why do we appear to gain no confidence individually and collectively from good performances? Just finish. I know you talked about it earlier on, Tyler, but just finish that one up for us.
Well, yeah, it's spot on, isn't it? You think you beat Spurs, you have a flying second half, you think you're going to Newcastle, buzzing. Jimenez looked like, again, he'd never played football before in his life. After he'd had a real good game against Spurs. Adama's just scored a winner, and yeah, he did okay, but Greg's right. I don't see how we're not going on a pattern or a run of games, are we? And I totally agree. I find it bonkers. You think by beating Spurs, 4th place in the league at home, 1-0? Yeah, go.
And the second half, we were totally better than Spurs. Greg,
into the next game, but we just don't ever seem to do it.
Greg, thanks for your continued contribution to the Wolves report. This is another one. I like this. Chris Fisher asks, consider his success at PSV. Do you believe we will see Fabio back in a Wolves shirt next season? Nocky. He's going to score 20 goals this year.
It's irrelevant.
I've just got a little sneaky we're going to sell him. I really have. He deserves an opportunity. I think he's done enough. And he's not in the best leagues, we know that. And he's playing for good teams in those leagues, so he's going to get opportunities. Will he score goals for us? He can't be any worse than our current number 9s.
Well, what's the competition? Well, what I'd respond with, Chris? Sorry,
I think whatever we do next season has to work. So we have to be 100% sure that he's going to come back and score goals, or we've got to look elsewhere, because we can't be in this position next season. We just absolutely can't. And a player of his age needs to be playing football regularly now. So we either back him as our main number 9 next season, or we get rid and we look elsewhere. Because I think reality is Jimenez is going to go. Sasha Kalashnic, he's done his cruciate. We don't know what kind of state he's going to come back in. Costa's going to go. So yeah, we will be short on the ground, but are we going to carry it to?
We signed a £45 million number 9, so
he's a winger. He's a winger, mate. But so I think if they are going to give him a chance, and I think if you were looking at talent around Europe now, you'd fancy taking a punt on Fabio Silva. So maybe he does deserve an opportunity.
If Wolves were looking in now and he wasn't a Wolves player, and you saw what he'd done, you'd be interested in signing him. And what I would say, Chris, in response, is He scored in 2 different European competitions this season.
Oh, my
Wolves are trying to stay in the Premier League, and none of our forwards have scored any goals. So you know what? I'm absolutely taking him. But regardless, if he's playing in the Beezer homes, yeah, I don't care. He's scoring goals. You can only score in the games of what's in front of you. So you know what? I hope he does come back.
He deserves a chance.
There's clearly a very good footballer there. Now, the game when we beat Villa 2-1 at Molineux, Nocky, when we were in the North Bank, when you carried me up the stairs, that game, that first half, Fabio was tremendous. That was a sign, I thought, of things to come. But he's gone out. He probably ended up with 20 goals. Yes, Chris, the standard isn't the same as the Premier League. But if he goes away in any league and he's got 20 goals and he's got 7 or 8 assists, that's a good season. He's done what he's been asked to do that year then. I don't think he can do any more than that. Next question.
It should be Wolves now. I'm not as big as Spurs, you know. It should be our centre forward now.
It's a valid point. You should.
Should we? I agree. You should, but we went with Costa, didn't we? And then we didn't want to pay any fees in January.
£45 million winger.
So, should we lighten the mood and have a little bit of fun with this question? Why not? Jonah asks, which 3 teams would you most like to go down? And which teams do you predict to go down? Or Nocky's chewing the fat on that one already. Knocker, you can start.
If I could choose one to go down, it'd be the Villa. I mean, they're the bottom of the league, rock bottom, but they're not really in the mix, are they? If I could choose, it would be Leeds, Everton.
Yeah.
Bournemouth. Yeah, Bournemouth.
Not Forest.
No. Well, no,
at least Forest can get more than 10,000 there.
We'll earn money from Forest staying up, whereas Bournemouth, I've never forgiven them for the dark arts the year they got promoted from the Championship under Eddie Howe. So, yeah, I'll take that. Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton.
Are you two in unison with that answer?
I just don't think in the best league of the world you can have 12,000 seat stadium. They're just not a football club for me. Everton, they just need to go rot for a little bit. And Leeds and Forest is probably the toss of a coin in it, to be honest.
It would be nice to see Gibbs White relegated, but
I'll probably go Forest just on that one.
We'd earn money though, wouldn't we, for them staying up, and that's a little bit towards the budget next year. So,
well, we're going to get 45 million for Hoover if he carries on. So don't worry about the budget, lads.
Put him up front; he's banging them in, isn't he?
My answers on that: who do I want to get relegated?
You don't need to think about it. You've sent it me enough times.
I think Forest, because obviously the needle. I get annoyed with Bournemouth because when you go, you can only go with 7 mates in the whole away end, and that's annoying. and some of our best days, I'd say, well, 2 of them are here. So at Southampton, like 3,000 fun. That's what you want in a away end, an away day. And I mean, it's down to Wolves to beat a club with 10,000, 12,000, regardless. I'm just frustrated at the away end for them. So for me though, I'm gonna go Everton, Forest, Bournemouth. That's who I'd like. Who would we think to go down? Now this is an absolute stinker.
I'm looking at the side.
I think Forest will go.
I think Forest will go.
I think Forest, Bournemouth, Southampton for me.
Oof. Tyler?
Forest, Southampton, Leeds.
You think Leeds will go?
I think Leeds have got enough.
I just like Bournemouth. I mean, fair play to Bournemouth. Nearly got a result at Arsenal. Then they beat Liverpool. I think they've just got enough in their camp. Leeds, for me, just seem a little bit slapdash. So that's the only reason I'm going for them. But yeah. Yeah,
I think Forest will go. I think Southampton losing last night is going to really take the wind out of their sails. So Southampton, Forest, and I still think Bournemouth will go. Bournemouth, of what they've done is when they get a goal lead, they've shown if they score first, they will throw any body part, anything at all to win that football match. And that's to be respected, though. If they take a lead in a football game, other than the Arsenal game, they are hard. Liverpool aren't very good, but they have some great players. They shut out Liverpool. They shut out Wolves at Molineux. It was horrible, but they're good at being horrible. But I still think they'll get relegated. But anyway,
I think they'll have enough.
Great one there, Jonah. Much appreciated for that. I'm sure we'll get some abuse on the show. Andy McGrath's got a comment. Says, wonder if the missus minds me listening to this on the way to Manchester Airport. Well, I hope she doesn't, and I hope you have a lovely holiday. So yeah, hopefully you'll be smiling at the result of the weekend as well if Wolves beat Leeds. Thank you for your support, Andy. Interesting one now. I don't know if this is a bit of criticism or a bit of fun. Chillo asks, when do we start to call J-Lo the Tinkerman? I think we can only call it him, to be honest, because I don't. How many times? I mean, I love doing them predicted starting 11s, and under Nuno and Bruno, you could pretty much get 10 out of 11 every week. Sometimes 11 out of 11. Now, not an idea. But what I will say though, Chillo, is that since he's come in, his points per ratio and what he's achieved, yes, he probably should be doing all right with the players and the money he's spent. He is the Tinkerman, but Wolves are second and top of the pile of the relegation candidates. So he can tinker all he wants if it's a success. Tyler?
I'd hit you back on that. So how many times do you think he's got his starting 11 correct?
Not as many as his substitutes have been good.
That's what
squad game, though, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing. But how? I'm no great footballer. None of us are. But surely you need a run of games. They say that you need a run of games in your position to really get to where you want to get to. And 45 minutes here and there for Adama and Neto. And I don't know if that would suit the players long term. I think eventually he's got to get to a team that is comfortable with him. That you can.
Is it still trial and error? Is he still trying to find the formula?
Maybe. I think we're giving him the benefit of the doubt, aren't we, at the moment? Because
if he keeps Wolves up, mate, that's all he needs to do this season. 17th, I'm still taking it now. Then we look next season. I don't care now. If he's tinkering now to try and find a formula, to try and find something that clicks, that's fine. As long as Wolves stay up, don't really care. We'll get a few more questions. We're on 56 minutes. Chillo, thank you for your contribution. This is a bit of a stinker from Ted, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. Good evening, Ted. Given that we are the only club in the relegation battle that does not possess a forward that can score, should we be sadly be covertly preparing for the championship?
Bloody hell, Ted. That's brought the mood down, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I can answer it, but we're not the only team that can't score. Everton haven't got a striker. Bournemouth haven't got a striker scoring goals. Southampton don't score goals. It's not just Wolves that don't score goals.
Ted,
you answer the question, Mark?
Yeah, go on, Knocker.
Yeah, I think you've covered it. None of the teams down there are scoring the goals because if you're in the bottom half of the league, you're one of the worst teams in the league, aren't you? So you don't have those top quality players. I think Leicester have got Jamie Vardy, who's a top class striker, and they're below us in the league. So it's not always about who your number 9 is. It's more than the days of Bull and Much where those two got the goals and maybe Robbie Dennison chipped in with the odd goal. You're supposed to share your goals out now. I think your number 9 is more a focal point, and I still think Jimenez could potentially do that job for us and hold the ball up and bring other players in. So I'm worried about relegation because we're still in that mix, aren't we? 2 years from now,
we'd be foolish not to be worried about it.
Yeah, but I think I'd look at the whole squad as opposed to just the number 9 and compare that to the squads around us. And I think we're better than at least 3 of those squads. So for me, you've got to have relegation in the back of your mind. It'd be very arrogant not to, but I personally still think we've got enough to steer clear of it. And I think he's proving that with his points ratio since taking over.
I understand the fear, Ted, but much appreciated your continued contribution to the Wolves report. I've taken loads of questions down from Twitter. I've only used a quarter of them, so apologies if yours didn't get read out. I will try and get some different questions from different people next week, but I do appreciate that. We've got about 2 minutes left. We're probably going to run over a little bit. Need to move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Leeds United on Saturday. It's going to be sold out. It's going to be loud. The game last year has left a painful scar. 2-0 up, red card, lose 3-2. My little girl's first game, and she still comes back and watches Wolves as well. So I'm sure we can blame her if she's not aware of that. So Tyler, Saturday, massive game. Give me your team for Saturday.
Who knows? Do you want to put them all in the hat and we just pick it up?
What would you do?
Should we do a Bruno ball roulette and who picks it? I'll go 4-2-3-1. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of just getting it wrong in midfield. I'll go back 4 picks itself, doesn't it? I'll play Aït-Nouri over Johnny. I'll play Neves and Lamina as the 2. I'd play Jimenez as the striker. It depends who's fit. If everyone's fit, I'd play Adama.
Everyone's fit. Let's say everyone's fit.
I'd probably play Adama, Sarabia, And maybe Hwang, you know, I'm not his biggest fan, but just for his energy, I think I'm not sure you can play Sarabia and Podence in the same team.
No.
And I think that would give us enough then. I mean, we can't go into this game thinking about Leeds. We just need to think about ourselves and going in the game. And by hook or by crook, I don't really care how we do it, but we just need to win on Saturday. It's massive.
Absolutely. Wolves, for me, still have a lot of talented footballers. As Nocky said, maybe some of them aren't as talented as we think. However, there are some good players there and enough to beat teams in that bottom third of the table. So, for me, I keep repeating myself every week, the more positives Wolves set up in whatever part of the game, the better the performance. They were more positive in the second half against Newcastle. It was a better performance. Wolves put 3 centre-backs on. The performance regressed. It's not a coincidence. Nocky, what changes are you making for Saturday?
My team would be pretty similar to Chris's, like a 4-2-3-1. I would play Hwang because I think he's got the energy levels that some of the other players don't seem to show up front. I'd play Adama over Sarabia and Jimenez up front. My suspicion is he'll go 4-3-3. I think Núñez will come in for Coutinho. I think it'll be Lemina, Neves. And I think up front it'll be Hwang. He's going to play Jimenez, and then it's potluck really whether he plays Podence or Traore or Sarabia. Sarabia's fit will probably play him, to be honest, but I think it'll be 4-3-3.
I'd be really surprised if we start Hwang. If you're out for a hamstring, starting a Premier League game, I think that's someone that will need to be eased in. Granted, he scored and his energy is a good thing. I'd be surprised if he started. I think if Sarabia...
Desperate to get him in. I think he'll be desperate to get him in.
Yeah, that's fine, but if you come back from a hammer and you're asked to start a game, that's a big ask.
But he came on over Cunha on Sunday, scored, started against Liverpool. He likes him, doesn't he? He rates him, so I think he'll start.
He's got 60 minutes in him, hasn't he? I mean, for me, you start him and then you bring him off after 60 minutes and bring one of the other options on. I think we need that high energy from the start because Leeds are going to press us.
They'll just run. Leeds,
yeah, he'll give us an outball for me.
Leeds just run. Yeah.
That's a really good point. So for me, then, if they're going to press and come at us, pacing behind, so that would, for me, be Hwang and Adama. Because then if Jimenez comes in and tries to link up, do you play a 10 off him? I don't think he'll do that. We all want to play 4-2-3-1. I don't think he'll do it. But then for me, if Jimenez comes in, Harry Kane-esque, I wish he was Harry Kane-esque, but dropping in and then feeding the players where there's gaps in behind, maybe that'll be the plan.
I think he's more likely to wait for the second half for Adama, though, because I think he'll wait until Leeds have burnt themselves out and look for that space behind. So I don't think he'll start Adama. I think he's more likely to start Hwang than Adama and then look at bringing Adama on second half, probably for Sarabia, 65, 70 minutes in.
You have been watching episode 56 of the Wolves Report. Get to the end of the show now. Nocky, Tyler, time for your predictions and first scorer. As you look like you're constipated, Tyler, we'll start with you.
It's just a stinker of a game, isn't it? I think it's got a bit of the West Hams and the Spurs all over it. I think we might win 1-0.
We'll take that.
And I'll give
take your arm off.
So maybe Neves, I think.
Oh, yes. Well, absolutely taking that, Nocky.
I'm going to go 2-0 because I just love a comfortable afternoon that's wrapped up.
When does that ever happen?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's got to happen at some point, isn't it? I'll go 2-0. Jimenez with the opener.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Give yourself a chance there, have I, to be fair? I need a prediction. Give yourself no hope.
For 3 months now, I've been saying Cunha, but as he's not fit and not starting, I can't say Cunha because he's not going to start. But you watch him come in and score now. I'll be absolutely buzzing. I've got to back Wolves. I'm going to go absolutely outrageous and go Wolves 3, Leeds United 0. If not, look at Tyler's face. And I'm going to. The opening goal will be from Matheus Núñez. Let's just get all the icing on the cake, boys.
That's worse than my prediction, that is.
It's out there now. It's too late. You have been watching episode 56 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Chris, Tyler, Martinock, and I've been your host, Ryan Lester. Up the Wolves.